Okay, we're back and we're still working on scripting. This is the third video, and I had left off in the second video talking about the pause command. And now what I'm going to talk about before I get to the if command is I have another command I'd like to get to first. This command definitely is used almost exclusively in scripts, although you can type it on the command line just to see what it'll do. But it allows you to put comments inside of scripts. And that command, excuse me, is REM. And I'm going to type it on the command line here. And anything following REM does not get executed as a command by the command line. So you can use it to make comments and list any kind of information you want inside the script to kind of give more information about what the script's for. Maybe list a comment at a certain point about why you used a certain command when another possible command could have worked, that sort of thing. Excuse me, I was just taking a drink, a little dry. Now, when you type the command in, REM, you just simply type whatever you want. And for instance, if I just wanted to say this, oops, excuse me, had cap locks on, this is a test script. As simple as that. And when you hit return, or enter on a regular command line like this, nothing's going to happen. You can just see how it'll look when you type something. So I'm actually going to go into our test script I've been creating in Notepad. And I'm going to go ahead and at the very top, I'm going to type in some comments. So REM, again, just like the other commands, I don't have to type them in uppercase, but I'm just going to do it because it kind of sets them off a little bit. So you can see that that's where your comments. I'll just put my name, REM, the date, which is 10/18/15, and then I'm going to say the same thing. This is a test script. The same thing as what I typed on the command line. Alright, then we'll save it, and we'll run our script. So I was doing some other testing here. So let's run test script. And this is line 1, 10/18, this is line 2, press any key to continue. And there you are. So this is line 1, the date, pause, and so on. So what I want to do is I want to run this again because actually what I was expecting was for the commands REM to appear from running in the script. That's interesting. Oh yeah, I know why. Excuse me. dir. Alright. What I was doing is I was experimenting with some copy commands earlier because I was grading some homework. And I have my test script here, but I bet this particular test script doesn't have my comment commands. Alright, so what was going on? This is kind of, I guess, a happy happenstance for a learning moment. If you have a script with the exact same name as another script, and you're in that directory, it will look in the directory you're in first before it consults the path variable. So since it found a script called test script in this Word documents directory I'm in, it ran that, when in fact the test script that I actually modified is in the scripts folder. So what I'm going to do is del test script.bat, because I want to get rid of that test script. It was either that or I could have just simply changed directories. So now if I type test script is not recognized as an internal or external command. That's interesting. I must have gotten out of, okay, while I was doing other things in between creating the videos, I had closed this command prompt window, forgot about it, and although it's a little bit odd, here's my script. Okay, because I was running test script without thinking about it. Alright, so what we'll do is, let's find my path, and I don't have the path command in this session, which makes sense. Alright, so what we'll do is, here it goes, we'll do path equals percent path percent semicolon C colon backslash users backslash Mark Monica backslash excuse me, scripts. Alright, so typing path, alright, there's my scripts. So now this should work. Bingo. Alright, finally, what all of this was there to do is I wanted to show you that even with the comment command REM, you have to be careful where you put it in your script. So even though I have the echo off command, because I put the REM commands above my echo off in my script, those commands show up when you run your script, and probably not what you want to happen. Alright, so here's my script, here's my REM commands. Alright. That's what I get for not double checking things. Alright, so let's copy this, Control X, and Control V, and there. Now, all of my comment commands are below the echo off, so when I save and run my script again, after of course I press any key to continue, there. No REM commands get displayed. So, several learning moments there. A couple of them were on purpose. Several were not. But what I said earlier, though, was true about the fact that if you do have a script with the same name and you're in that directory, the command line will run that script first. So it'll look in the current directory first before it consults the path variable, even though in this case the path variable at first didn't have the scripts directory listed as one of the places to check. Alright. Okay. Now, Finally, we're done with the REM command. What I want to talk about now is the if command. Sorry, things are taking a little bit of time. I'm not sure why. Alright, so we've talked about the REM. So now what I'm going to do is talk about if and else. And technically, if and else are part of the same command, but the command line treats them separately. So what's going on? If is a type of command that's called a Boolean command, and that's, I'll type it out here on the command line, B-O-O-L-E-A-N, Boolean. So what it does is it checks to see if some value is true or false, and then executes the appropriate commands based on the results of that evaluation. Alright, so if what is being checked is true, a command is executed. If what is being checked is false, some other command is executed. And that's basically really it. You use the if commands to determine only certain groups of commands, or even a single command or group of commands get executed. And you use the true or false to determine which command or groups of commands get executed. Now, you can have a simple if without an else, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to the next slide. So you have a simple if that does not have an else component to it. So for instance, if your first script parameter equals documents, then set save path to be equal to documents. So this EQU is part of the evaluation. So this whole thing right here that I have highlighted is what's being evaluated for true or false. So if that's true, you're going to get a variable set. If it's false, then the variable is not going to get set in this instance. The second example I have here is using the else command. So again, you're evaluating if the parameter is equal to documents, and if it's true, you're going to set a variable. This time I've made it the command a little bit more elegant by, instead of using the documents value in the set command, I'm using the parameter in the set command. That way, if you want to change it, all you have to do is remember to change documents in one place. Okay, now the first part of this if statement is exactly like we have in the first example. If parameter 1 equals documents set, and then set save path to documents. All right. The difference is, in the second example here, I'm now using the else command to explicitly say, this is what I want to happen if this is false. So that's what else is used for. It's used to make sure certain commands will get executed if it's false. And then all the other commands after the if statement can go ahead and execute, but you want to make sure a specific command or group of commands get executed when the evaluation ends up being false. And in this case, it's just another basically a simple command. I'm using the echo that the documents directory has to be specified. So whatever this script was doing, it's checking to make sure your first parameter that you specified was documents. And if it isn't documents, then you get an error message, essentially. All right. So I talked about before that when you're using an if statement, you usually don't type this on a command line. To do something, you usually put it in a script, but you can, you can type it on a command line to try to test to make sure you've got the syntax correct. Now in this case, we can't do something like a parameter, a %1 parameter, but we could test this using regular variables to see if it would work. So let's go to just the command line, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to type the if command on the command line. But first what I want to do is I have to create the variable that I'm going to test. So first off, I'm going to create a variable, and I'm just going to call it 1. So we're going to set 1 equal to documents. Okay? And remember, your variables have to, your variable names have to conform to, excuse me, file name convention. So I think this will work. We'll find out if it complains or not. And it lets me do it. So now if I do echo %1%, all I get is documents back. Okay, so we can make this simulate a parameter variable. So now we can type our if. So we can say if %1, and again, because it's a regular variable, we need % on both sides, EQU documents, set, and let me make sure I get the right, set save path. Set save path equal %1. Alright, so if this is true, then set save path will execute, and I'll have a variable called save path that has documents in it. Alright, so there's my if. I didn't get any kind of error message from the command line, and so if I do echo %save path, there it is, I have documents. So here we go, is we can expand the if now to include the else statement. So now though, to test the else part of this, we need to set %1 to something else. So what we'll do is we'll set 1 equal to none, for instance, okay? And we'll echo 1, and it's equal to the text none. Now I'm doing all this because I'm going to have the same if statement, but I'm going to include the else part, like we have here in the PowerPoint example. So what I want to do is show how you can type the entire if statement on the command line to test different parts of it. Alright, so let me go back to the command line, and I have the variable set to something different than documents, and I'm going to bring the if statement up. Oops, again, that catches me too. moving back and forth. I do forget that, okay, I do have to go back forward now to get the if statement that occurred after the echo statement. All right, so after this, we'll put else, echo, and I want to try to get it exactly what I got here or close to it. Let's see, echo the documents directory has to be specified. All right. Now, I should get that text echoed back because I set %1, or yeah, I'm sorry, I set the variable 1 to be equal to none. So let's see if this works. If %1, no, it didn't echo. The documents directory has to be specified. All right. Now let's echo. I did specify things correctly. All right. So that didn't work. Interesting. All right. So let's try things. See, I specified EQU. All right. So, whoa. Sorry about that. Little weirdness on the screen redraw. All right. So let me try this. And I'll explain this in a minute, if it works. That did not work. Okay, that's interesting. Give me 1 minute. I'm looking up something. Okay, all right. Try this again. Okay, there we go. All right. I was thinking I could use square brackets, but what I had to use was parentheses. All right, what's going on here is that later on I was going to talk about how you can use parentheses to group multiple commands together. But the problem is occasionally you need to use them when you have kind of a multi-level if command here. And in this case I had to use parentheses. I thought I could get away without using them, but I had to include them for this if. All right, so what's going on is that because I have kind of what the command line considers to be a multi-level command, so the first level is the if part, and so with the if part I'm going to execute one command, and then I have a second command, and that's my second level. And so with the second level I need to also include parentheses around the commands in the second level, so those will get executed properly. So the best thing I can tell you is that you really need to be on the safe side, include parentheses around your commands when you're going to have a more complicated command. more complicated if. So I apologize for that. I was thinking that should work without the parentheses. In this case, it didn't. And that's why again, I get kind of a happy learning experience here. A little bit of egg on my face. But you can see why you need to test these things out on the command line. You can also test them when you put them in a script, but it's a little bit easier here to fool around on the command line than it is to constantly keep editing your script file and resaving it. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint to double check if there's anything I missed. All right. So we talked about you can check a parameter value to see if it doesn't contain a value. Now I talked about this a little bit earlier, that if you forget to specify a parameter value and your script is expecting something, weird things can happen. Like in my script here, the echoes simply didn't have anything to echo, so they thought they were just a command by themselves and just told us what the status of echo was because I didn't specify parameter values. Well, what you can do is you can use an if, and in order to check if you have a parameter value specified, you can simply add some text here. Now remember, you can include variables, any kind of variable, as part of other text. So what I've got here is I just simply have 3 letters, CHK, for check, is what I'm using them for. And I now have CHK %1, and I'm checking to see if CHK %1 equals CHK. So what will happen is if you forget to specify a parameter, then CHK will be there by itself, and CHK will equal to CHK, which means you've got an error. So I have a echo displaying the text, no parameters specified. And then else I have a set command using save path equal to %1. So if there is a variable, or I'm sorry, a parameter specified, then what you have is CHK plus whatever is specified for the first parameter, and that will not be equal to just simply CHK. So typing that on the command line, I can use that here. So what I'll do is I'll modify the if I've already used, and I'll leave pretty much everything specified. I may need to modify things here a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for a small command to backspace over. Sorry, I hit the arrow key there when I was moving my hand. So what I'm going to do is I want to echo. I already had it there, so let me go back. There we go. I want to double check what's in %1 right now. All right, so what I need to do is we're going to set 1 equal to documents, and there we go. So we'll echo %1. There we go. All right, so now we'll just do a check to make sure this works. So if chk %1 equals chk, then we want to echo no parameter specified. Else, and it looks like I'm forgetting my parentheses again, but I want to try something and see if I can get away with only specifying parentheses in one spot. We'll see what happens. Else set save path equal to %1. Okay, so let's kind of read through this. If chk %1 equals chk, that means nothing was set for the variable, so you get an echo command that simply echoes no parameter specified. Else, if chk %1 is not equal to chk, then the else will execute this command, the set command. All right, so let's see if we have a save path variable. And we do. All right, so we know that works. So let's see what happens now. So the having the parentheses set on the second level of the if statement seemed to work okay, but the other part of this we need to check is see if the echo will work. So the way to do that is you can literally set a variable to be equal to nothing by not specifying anything after the equal sign. So that should work. Find out. So if I just simply echo %1, it now just simply echoes back %1. Okay, it thinks 1 is not set at all. Give me a second, I want to double check. Okay, let me just scroll back up here. Alright, I was a little bit worried about that. I hoped it wasn't going to work though. Alright, I mean I hoped I wasn't going to run into that problem, but okay, what the deal is, when you set a variable to be equal to nothing, then it's literally, it gets unset. And so you don't have the variable at all anymore. And so when you use the echo command, if the variable doesn't exist, you get the variable just simply echoed back to you. There's no value to display. Trying to think what that does to my if. And what the heck, let's see what happens. Nothing happens because there is no %1 variable. That's kind of what I thought would happen. Well, at this point, since we can't have a variable that contains nothing, at this point what we have to do is we have to actually put something like this in our script. So we've tested this as much as we can on the command line, so we actually have to include something in our test script. So what we'll do is I'm going to get rid of all the echoes, even the echo for and I could have just selected all this and deleted it all at once. I just kind of kept going. So what I'll do is I'll just have the date displayed, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our if. So if chk %1, so now we're talking about parameters. So we no longer need to use a % on either side of the variable of the parameter number. EQU chk echo no parameter specified. All right. So let's see. All right. Else set save path equal to our parameter. Okay. I think we have everything specified. So I just want to review it. If chk %1 equals chk, that means no parameter is specified, so we get the echo. Then we have an else, and the else is, that means something was specified with the parameter. We want to set a variable called save path. Okay, so what we'll do then is we'll save this, and let's go to our command line, and we'll just simply type test script without any parameters. No parameters specified, else set save. And we have an issue because everything after the echo is being displayed. Okay, here we go. Let's put parentheses around this little bugger. Okay, there. So we were okay on the command line, but as you can see, not everything goes like you think it will once you start putting stuff in the script. So now that's why you do testing. All right, so here we go. Test script. Yay! Okay, so we get no parameters specified. And now, if I actually specify something, scripts, our date displays, and we should have echo %save path. So there's our save path. So one of the nice things, though, about variables being set inside of your scripts is you can check for them after your script runs, and you can do testing that way. You don't actually have to have an echo command in your script. All right. Now, there are some things, other things you can check for in scripts. And there are other ways for you to check for things rather than just being equal to items. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move ahead in our PowerPoint. So you can check to see if a file or directory exists. And here in the PowerPoint, I have a couple of items here. So if a file exists, you can simply say exists. Now, you have to be careful when you're checking for directories. If you want to specify a directory name, then you need to specify a backslash at the end. If you forget and don't specify the backslash, then the command line thinks you're checking for a file. So let's use this on the command line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up one level. And let's check for the existence of testscript.bat. And we have an issue here because I now have basically 3 different test script backs, although I did delete the other one inside Word documents. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this one too. Alright, so the only valid test script bat I have left is in my scripts directory. So let's use the exist condition, and we'll say if exist. Now notice I don't say exists. I don't have an S on the end of it, because normally when you're talking you'd ask if something exists with an S at the end. In the scripting, in the Windows command line scripting, you just use exist. So if exist, and let's try test if.bat. If exist, test if.bat, echo file exists with an exclamation point. And I get file exists. So just to show you that this isn't always going to display echo or use echo, I'll misspell the file name. And remember, when you're testing for a file name, the extension is part of the file name. So now I don't get that echo. All right. Now let me show you about directories. So I'll say, we'll just change this if a little bit. And I'm going to check for, just like I have in my example, Word documents. Oh, okay, if Word documents exists, the directory exists. Okay, that's something I wasn't expecting. It used to be that you had to include a backslash on the end. And, you know, my advice, though, is to still include the backslash at the end. To make sure that you're really testing for a directory. Because if you had a file called Word Documents, that would find your Word Documents file. This way, with the backslash at the end of it, you really are testing for a directory rather than a file. And I'm trying to think of an easy way to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file called testdir, right? So let's do this, right? So let's see, I'll just create it with a date command, date /t into testdir, and I've just created a file. Access is denied. That's interesting. Oh, because I already have a directory. That makes sense. Okay, so let's try this. Testdir2. Okay, so here's my testdir directory. I already had one out there. Okay, that works. All right, so I have testdir, which is really a directory, and testdir2, which is just a file. So let's recall my if, and what I'll do is I'll change that to be testdir2. All right, and it finds testdir2. All right, now delete testdir2. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a directory called testdir2. All right, dir. There's my directory called testdir2. And I'm going to recall my if. And it works. Okay. So if you really want to make sure that what you're going to test for is a directory, then include that backslash at the end of it so that you know for sure that it's finding a directory with that name. All right, so you should include that backslash. Okay. All right, now another condition that you can test for is defined. So you can actually test if a variable contains some value. So you basically can check that something like save path has actually had something assigned to it. So we can try that on the command line as well. So let's do set, and I want to double check since I've been creating variable names. Let's see, I have save path. Don't have a test var in this session, so it looks like we're good. I just want to see what I can test with. All right, so let's say if defined test var, I'll just say echo %test var. All right, so what should happen here is, since there is not a variable called test var, you're not going to get an echo of any kind. All right, if test var doesn't contain a value, then test var doesn't exist. So essentially this also tests for the existence of a variable. So let me do that. So I get nothing back. So let's set something to test var. Set test var equals test. All right, nothing special. And we'll try the if again, and now the echo works. So this defined, although technically you're testing to see if a variable contains a value, really what ends up happening is that you're testing to see if the variable actually exists. All right. Okay. Now let me check a couple other things here. Okay. There are some other ways to do comparisons, but this video is already getting very long, so we're going to end up having a fourth video. I was trying to make them a little longer to see if I could finish in 3. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to do, well, not obvious, but I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm going to end this video at this point in the if, and we'll finish by, we'll start the next video by talking about not, and also some other things with if, and a couple more commands. All right.